don't you call for an investigation into Somali daycare fraud? Who are you calling extremist influencers?
While the FBI is still investigating Somali fraud in Minnesota, there may be more fraud going on in the state of Washington.
For the past few days, we've uncovered what we believe could be signs of possible Somali daycare fraud. At the very least, we've run into some really sketchy situations.
Is this an actual daycare, or are you aware of the Somali daycare fraud going on? We're just trying to check out if this is a real daycare.
I am U.S. citizen. I am working now.
Yeah.
Okay? I work. Okay? You don't have to request to come to my home.
So today we're talking about Washington, the state of Washington, and a situation that's starting to feel way too familiar.
For the past few days, we've uncovered what we believe could be signs of possible Somali daycare fraud. At the very least, we've run into some really sketchy situations.
All the windows are covered up with some type of vinyl.
Can we get an application for the home daycare?
I don't have.
You guys don't have a daycare?
They don't like you either.
Who?
Get a life.
No signage of any daycare, no sounds of any kids.
If you have a daycare, where are all the children?
I don't have to tell you what I have, what I don't have.
We've already covered Minnesota, we've covered Ohio, and now we're here again with the same old situation that's going on. And it's about potential Somali daycare fraud happening in the state of Washington. And more importantly, how the new mayor of Seattle, Katie Wilson, chose to respond to it. And when I say respond, I mean not so well. Instead of saying something reasonable like, hey, we support the Somali community, but we do not tolerate fraud. Instead of saying, if fraud is happening in my city, we'll investigate it. She went a whole different route. She chose to label journalists and investigators as extremist influencers. Right there is a tell, because when politicians attack the messenger instead of addressing a problem, it usually means something is wrong. Let's get into it.
Oh yeah, I was trying to find the local daycares.
We already know about what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
This is a licensed property. If you have a complaint, go to the state.
Okay, I was trying to find out if you guys are a daycare. I was just trying to see.
Well, you don't have to. Yeah, you don't have to. If you want to know any questions, just go online and ask who you need to ask. But
no, there's nobody online to ask, so I'm just trying to ask you guys.
No, you don't have to ask us anything.
I don't have to?
If you have any questions, go
I
to
do.
the state.
I have a question. I was just asking you guys.
And
Okay, you guys were listed on the website and a bunch of websites, so for daycares. So.
Oh, that's what it is. Then you don't need to go door to door.
It's yeah, no, you can. Yeah, I have. You can go door to door.
So if you have any questions, go call the child care check, and they'll give you whatever information that you need.
Okay, so you guys aren't a daycare then? Not a public daycare, right? Okay, I didn't think so.
Don't report our property either.
Oh, I can, yeah. So these ones were really hostile. I just knocked on the door just to see if it was a local daycare listed on the websites. She said contact the state. Interesting.
I can't believe we're talking about a different state. We're talking about Washington. Shout out to my dad. He actually is retired. He's living in the state of Washington. A dude from Brooklyn, New York, living over there. Much love to him. But let's check out this statement here from Katie Wilson. I stand with Somali childcare providers who have experienced targeted harassment and condemn the surveillance campaign promoted by extremist influencers. I think it says influencers. Yeah, influencers. If you believe yourself to be a victim of a hate crime, please call this hotline. All the audits I've seen, Nick Shirley and others, not one did I see that would be even suggested to be hate crime. So for someone to visit your daycare and ask questions is now a hate crime. This is where we are. So in Seattle, we believe in solidarity, and our city will not tolerate anyone who tries to intimidate, harass, or film Somali childcare providers. Such behavior is unacceptable and puts children and families at risk. If you're committing fraud, probably. Katie Wilson has a child, and when you call daycare, you check out the daycare. You ask questions, and daycares usually want to answer your questions. It's only when it's not a real daycare is when they get really hostile because you're stopping their fraud. But she doesn't understand that, or she doesn't want to understand that.
Said that everyone has a place in Seattle. Do, as you put it, extremist influencers have a place in Seattle?
Well, he's right here, so I guess so.
Who, John? Or me? What is your administration going to do to investigate?
No questions, sir.
No questions. No questions. You can't answer questions.
You get a photo and then you're out.
We're not doing press availability.
We're not doing press availability today.
That'll be later this week.
I need you to move.
Wilson, why don't you call the people looking at the Somali daycare fraud influencers?
Thank you. Have a good one. Take care. Right. Take care.
So we just stood in line to get a question for newly inaugurated Seattle Mayor Katie Wilson. As I got up there, I asked, because she said in her speech that everyone has a place in Seattle, and I said, does that include, as she put it, extremist influencers in her statement? She looked at Jonathan and she said, well, there's one standing right there. And then I said, well, what's your
guy?
He's the guy. What is your administration going to do to investigate Somali daycare fraud? And she literally started pushing me away and said, we're not taking questions at this time. I said, you're the newly elected mayor of Seattle. What do you mean you're not taking questions? And her staff ushered me out.
Well, this is going to probably be something that is very similar to Brandon Johnson that's in Chicago, or maybe Karen Bass of LA. You're going to have someone that is not going to be able to be very transparent. They're going to be emotional, and they're going to find ways to either attack the people who are saying something negative about them. You're going to see this kind of tactic go on with her. You could tell in this administration, her being, I guess you call it a socialist or whatever the issue is, and the fact that she is not going to really try to do anything to stop a lot of this fraud, and hopefully the state can take this seriously, because in Seattle, it looks like that's not going to be a priority for her. She's going to look to try to ban grocery stores from leaving, and other socialist policies is probably going to fail. I mean, Seattle is in a bad spot. Hiring someone or electing someone who has never built anything, doesn't have any real accomplishments, had her parents basically take care of her into her 40s. Seattle, you're going to get what you voted for. You guys are in a really tough spot. She's talking about condemning extremist influencers, and it's pretty obvious talking about, but I didn't see Nick Shirley threaten anyone. He didn't break any laws. He didn't harass anyone. He did something very simple. He just went door to door and asked, hey, is this daycare real? That's about it. And what did he find? Many of these locations were not open, no kids, no activities, everything is blind shut, hostile reactions from the people, and neighbors confused. That's what you call journalism. Calling that extremism is just a cheap political trick. It's a way to shut people up without answering any questions. And politicians do that a lot, unfortunately. Because when you really look at it, all Katie Wilson had to say was, Seattle supports the Somali community, but Seattle will not tolerate fraud. That's it. That statement protects everyone. But she didn't do that. Instead, she went straight to the group protection mode. And that is very dangerous, because fraud is not an attack on a community. Fraud is fraud. And when leaders refuse to even say the word, people start assuming that there's a cover-up, especially when Seattle is already broke.
Even if this was, let's assume for a second, a legitimate daycare business that's only serving 2 children, there is no world where the government should be giving almost $1 million or $750,000 in subsidies to this place.
It's incredibly easy to make fraudulent claims. Just, we're not seeing very much accountability.
And the agency responsible for overseeing and funding these daycares is the Washington State Department of Children, Youth, and Families. And the person running the shop is Secretary Tana Sen.
But I'm also happy to report that we have more childcare providers today than we did pre-pandemic.
In order to get in touch with her, we need to reach out to the communications department run by Nancy Gutierrez. We have called her numerous times. We have sent her emails with multiple questions about suspicious Somali daycares, some that are listed as licensed but don't exist when we knock on the doors.
6418 is not available. The mailbox is full and cannot accept any messages at this time. Goodbye.
Well, that's convenient. We're trying to get in touch with the DCYF, and the top comms person isn't responding to any of our requests for comment, and her mailbox is full.
If we do find out and we connect all the dots that this was fraudulent, we need to go back a forensic audit of how much money was actually spent, and we need to go retrieve all of it.
Let's assume the best. This is still inefficient. This is still a waste of taxpayer dollars. And the prevailing culture in Olympia doesn't mind that. They just don't see a problem.
And we could talk about this pattern. We saw this in Minnesota and we saw this in Ohio. It's the same setup every time. Daycares listed as open. No kids are inside. Money is still flowing. Anyone asking questions will be labeled racist or extremist. They get very aggressive when you just ask, hey, I'm interested in bringing my kid here. What's going on? They don't want to talk to anyone.
Hello, I'm looking for some home child care information. Do you have any information about child care?
No.
This isn't a child care facility?
Yes.
It is. Okay, can I get an application?
No.
I can't? So you don't allow it to low-income people?
No, I'm not talking about low-income already.
Okay, how come I can't receive child care here? Okay, wow. So she just literally said I cannot get information about childcare here.
My name's Nick. Just let you know my camera's recording.
I am working on a story about childcare facilities in the Seattle Housing Authority's grounds.
Okay.
So I just actually confirmed that 11 or possibly 10 of these facilities don't have any kids at them. So I'm working.
Okay.
I'm sure you've probably seen the Nick Shirley story on.
Yes.
Okay. That's what I'm working on.
At some point, coincidence stopped being a coincidence. This isn't about the Somali people. It's about bad systems being exploited and politicians are being too scared to admit it. If your system falls apart when someone asks a question, the system is the problem.
That this country kind of uses the same playbook, pick a vulnerable group, describe them as a threat, flood the media with accusations, then use the pattern to justify collective punishment.
Oh, yes.
The problem is with that, it's not necessarily just accusations. It's been over 10 years of this type of behavior happening. This just didn't happen 2 months ago. As I show you guys on this channel, we've seen this happen in, at least in Minnesota, videos going back 10 years. So this is not picking out a vulnerable group. What's actually happening is it seems like the people who are in control of these cities are taking this vulnerable group and allowing them to exploit the system and not prosecuting them and not providing accountability.
So as a Somali immigrant Muslim American, I'm in Seattle, but our community knows this script very well. So we had surveillance of our mosques, travel bans, a certain president calling us garbage, and this rhetoric doesn't stay abstract, it always filters down. So we've seen these past few weeks people pulling up to Somali daycares and establishments demanding that they prove that they're not committing fraud. They're literally harassing our neighbors and our children because they believe that we inherently are untrustworthy. This is what sustained dehumanization does. It starts as language, it becomes a belief, and then it shows up in real places with real consequences. But this playbook is not exclusive to us. So we've seen after the Supreme Court dog reversal, reproductive care became a battleground, forcing people to travel, delay care, or carry pregnancies against their will. Trans youth were being turned into political targets, with lawmakers trying to criminalize their doctors' families and their very existence. Immigrant policies have also forcefully ripped families apart by design, turned units into case numbers, and seats on deportation flights.
Is there fraud being committed or not? I mean, there's a lot of distractions. There's a lot of people saying a whole lot of words, probably printed out on ChatGPT or something. If there's a selection in this community of people scamming and defrauding the government, they need to be held accountable. I'm not going to defend anybody, if they're in my group or not, of committing a crime. If they commit a crime, they get caught. That's what accountability is about. So all this long word vomit of we are being attacked without ever really answering the question. This is something that is just really irritating to me. Instead of demonstrating what is being done legally or not legally, they want to go back to the rhetoric. And it's not working. It's clearly not working. Now let's talk about Katie Wilson again. She branded herself as this big, bold socialist reformer with big ideas and big promises. On paper, it sounds nice. Protect workers, stop corporations from leaving, keep grocery stores in the city. But when you look past the slogans, the results aren't there. Seattle is still losing grocery stores. Seattle still has rising crime. Seattle still has a massive budget problem. And now, on top of that, there's a potential fraud happening in her city. This was a real leadership test. Instead of focusing on policies that can actually work, like accountability, enforcement, protecting taxpayer money, Katie Wilson chose the culture war language. She chose to label independent journalists as extremists for simply asking questions. That's a dangerous move because once you start calling reporters extremists, you're no longer governing. Now you want to police speech. Nick Shirley didn't organize a protest. He didn't threaten anyone. He didn't break the law. He went to publicly listed daycare locations and checked if they were real. That is basic oversight that the government's not even doing. That's what journalists are supposed to do when the government won't. Instead of welcoming transparency, Wilson treated scrutiny like it's an attack. And it fits a larger pattern with her policies. A lot of them sound good in theory, but fall apart in reality because they're built on ideology instead of execution. It's easy to talk about stopping grocery stores from leaving. It's much harder to create an environment where businesses actually want to stay. And since she never built a business or built anything, she has no idea how to start. Leadership isn't about protecting feelings or picking sides. Leadership is about facing uncomfortable facts. And if your first instinct is to smear independent journalists instead of addressing the problem of fraud, that's not leadership, that's avoidance. So this situation here is not saying that all Somali people are bad. That's nonsense. This is saying that no group gets a fraud pass. Not in Minnesota, not in Ohio, and not in Washington. If Katie Wilson wants to be taken seriously as a leader, she needs to stop attacking journalists and start answering questions, because calling people extremists doesn't make the facts disappear. It just makes you look scared. But let me know what you guys think about this situation in the comments below. Thank you for taking time to watch this video, and I'll see you guys in the next video.